Lumber is taking another hit from U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. New tariffs announced last month are now in effect.
And there's Canada's lumber industry having to deal with the pain of tariff on tariff. A 10% hike on an existing 35% tariff, plus a brand new 25% tax on finished wood products.
We have the best trade deal of any other country, and we're working to make it even better still. Our goal for Canada is to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next decade, generating more than $300 billion more in trade.
Breaking tonight. This isn't just about lumber anymore. This is about the price of the American dream quietly rising. And most families don't even realize why. Pause for a second and think about this. A simple piece of wood, a basic 2x4, something you can hold in one hand, something that barely ever makes headlines. And yet tonight, that piece of wood is sitting at the center of a fight that could decide whether millions of Americans can afford a home or not. It started with tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. On paper, it looked like a strong move. Protect American mills, push back against unfair trade, level the playing field. That was the message. That was the promise. But the real world doesn't move on paper. When tariffs climbed into the 30% range, even past 40% for some producers, the impact was immediate. Prices didn't politely adjust, they jumped. Supply chains didn't slowly recalibrate, they shook. And here's the part that matters. For decades, the United States and Canada operated almost like partners in a quiet system. America builds, Canada supplies. Trucks cross the border daily. Builders placed orders without thinking twice. Lumber arrived, homes went up, families moved in. No drama, no noise. Until suddenly, there was noise. Instead of folding under pressure, Canada made a decision that changed the tone of the entire situation. Rather than fight loudly, they pivoted, quietly, strategically. Billions of dollars were directed towards strengthening their own industry. Domestic procurement rules shifted. Federal projects began prioritizing Canadian wood. Financial programs stepped in to stabilize mills that were hit by lost US demand. It wasn't emotional, it was calculated. But don't mistake calculation for weakness. Yes, there was pain. Mills closed. Thousands of workers felt the shock. Communities that relied on forestry held their breath. That part was real. That part hurt. But restructuring followed. Older, high-cost plants were shut down. Modern facilities were upgraded. Production was consolidated. And while America focused on tariffs, Canada focused on adaptation. Now pause again, because while all of that was happening, something else was building quietly in the United States. America uses around 70 billion board feet of lumber every year. Domestic production? Closer to 58 billion. That gap? Billions of board feet didn't disappear when tariffs went up. It tightened. And when supply tightens in a country already facing a housing shortage of millions of homes, the pressure doesn't stay in the lumber yard. It moves outward, into neighborhoods, into mortgage offices, into kitchen table conversations. Imagine being a young couple right now. You've saved, you've waited, you're watching mortgage rates every week. You finally see rates ease a little and think, maybe this is our moment. Then you look at the listing price. It's higher than you expected. Builders aren't villains here. They run numbers. Lumber is a major part of construction cost. When lumber prices rise sharply, it feeds straight into the final price tag. Thousands of dollars added before the first nail is even hammered. A house that might have been barely within reach suddenly stretches beyond qualification limits. Not because of laziness, not because of bad planning, because input costs shifted. And this is where the emotional weight of policy becomes real. Tariffs were meant to protect American producers. And yes, some domestic mills benefit from tighter competition. higher margins, more breathing room. That part is true. But scaling production is not instant. You can't snap your fingers and create billions of board feet of additional supply. It takes investment, labor, infrastructure, time. Meanwhile, housing demand doesn't pause. The United States is already short millions of homes. To close that gap, construction would need to accelerate dramatically. Not slow down, not hesitate, accelerate. But when materials remain structurally elevated in price, hesitation creeps in. Developers postpone projects. Investors grow cautious. Housing starts trend lower when they should be climbing. And here's the emotional twist. While American builders wrestle with cost sheets, Canadian exporters are building new relationships. Shipments to Europe, expanded conversations in Asia. Markets that once felt secondary are becoming strategic priorities. When new trade lanes are established, they don't easily unwind. Contracts get signed, infrastructure aligns, buyers adapt. If Canadian producers find stable demand elsewhere without heavy duties, the incentive to rush back into a volatile US market weakens. So what does that mean long term? It means elevated lumber prices risk becoming normal, not temporary, not a spike, a baseline. And that baseline quietly reshapes the future. Young families delay buying, rental markets tighten, multi-generational living increases, household formation slows. The housing shortage compounds year after year. This isn't dramatic television. It's slower than that. It's quieter, but it's deeper. A tariff meant to shield one slice of industry may have unintentionally hardened a supply gap in another. Now step back emotionally. No country wants to feel dependent. No leader wants to look weak. Trade policy is often framed in terms of strength and leverage. But markets don't respond to slogans. They respond to incentives. Canada's response wasn't loud defiance. It was structural change. Diversify exports. Strengthen domestic demand. Modernize production. America's challenge now is different. It must balance protection with supply reality. Because the housing market doesn't care about political positioning. It cares about wood arriving on time at a price builders can absorb.